Hi everybody, I'm Joe Parker of the Pixel Depot, where we give model railroaders the knowledge, tools, and services they need to build a realistic model railroad and the motivation to do it right now. Now this video may become a little bit of a rant, and I'll apologize in advance. The last video that I did was a review of the latest Athearn Genesis GP40-2, and that video has gotten a lot of really good response. It's been one of my more popular videos. Now when I do reviews, I always kind of hate to mention what the price is, because inevitably what follows is a bunch of comments about how expensive the hobby's become and that the average person can't do it anymore, and so on and so forth. Now I welcome all comments, whether they agree with me or not. I don't normally respond to individual comments by creating a full video on it, but there was one that came about in this review that really kind of bothered me, and so I felt like I needed to do more than just respond to the comment in the comments list. So bear with me on this. Here we go. Now the comment in question read, "The problem with model railroading is that the hobby has evolved away from inviting youngsters and rail enthusiasts and focuses on people with deep pockets. The day of scratch building trains, operating on a shoestring budget, and fun without spending a mint has vanished. The ranks of hobbyists who abide by the old motto, model railroading is fun, has been replaced by, I get it if I buy it. Model railroading is on its last legs. Old-timers knew that back in the 90s. All this is an advertising promo." So the old-timers knew in the 90s that model railroading was on its last legs. Let's think about that for a minute. You can pretty much credit Lionel in the year 1900 that was formed with really getting electric trains to become something that was a full-fledged hobby. And you could probably even go a little further on and say it wasn't really until the 30s, 40s, 1950s maybe, that model railroading as we know it with scenery and operating and all those different things really came into its own. So we're talking about a lifespan of 120 years for model railroading. So what this person is saying is that for the last 25 to 30 years of a 120-year-old hobby, it's been on its last legs. I don't buy that for a minute. We are here 25 to 30 years after the 1990s. The hobby's never been stronger. It's never had more variety in terms of available products, never had more quality without question, and never, to my knowledge anyway, had more actual operating layouts. And isn't that mostly what people are after, is an operating layout? So yeah, these old timers in the 90s clearly knew what they were talking about. I regularly go to train shows and I still see a ton of kids. And when I see those kids and they get excited about something, it's usually because it's running. You tell a kid, hey, before you can run a train, you need to spend the next 6 months making something out of these parts. See how excited they stay. Heck, I'm an adult, and if you told me that, I'd be like, yeah, see ya. This is not something that I'm interested in. So in order to compete with video games, the internet, streaming video content, and all those other things that compete for kids' attention, you're going to have to give them something more than, here's a bunch of parts for $5, go figure out how to make something. Now likewise, most rail enthusiasts I know are indeed modelers, and most of them, because they're rail enthusiasts, want their equipment to be as prototypical as possible. Detail costs money, whether it's coming direct from the manufacturer or by way of detail parts that you have to add later. I did some comparisons on entry-level equipment now versus what an Athearn locomotive cost back in 1985 when I was getting started in the hobby. Now, taking inflation into account, the Athearn locomotive in 1985 was indeed cheaper. However, the quality wasn't nearly what you get today on an entry-level product. If you take things into account, including inflation, the base level of detail you're getting, even on an entry-level model, the quality of run that you're going to get out of it, in my mind, the cost is very, very similar. So I kind of reject the argument that it's so expensive now that no kid is ever going to get started in it. Personally, I don't have any interest in tinkering endlessly with an engine that I paid $10 for, but I still have to tinker with it to actually get it to run. I have no interest in scratch building a locomotive because that's not where my interest lies. Now, if you say that means I'm not a model railroader, we're going to have to agree to disagree. In my mind, model railroading is fun. is still the motto, but people derive their fun from a lot of different things. Some people want to run trains and not build things. That's their fun, and that's okay. Some people, like myself, think it's fun to kit bash or scratch build structures, but not rolling stock or locomotives. Some people think scenery is fun and prefer the finer look of static grass and other pre-made scenery materials to the coarse dyed sawdust and ground-up seat cushions that used to be the norm in the past. And yet, those lower-end options are still available to those that want to pursue them. As evidenced by dollar store and craft store videos that I've done in the past, I am always looking around for inexpensive items that I can repurpose for modeling use. But I've never understood this mentality that you're only a modeler if you're operating on a shoestring budget. There is no question that there are many people on a shoestring budget, but many aren't. And so the hobby doesn't need to cater only to the lowest common denominator. And let's be frank, nearly all hobbies are expensive. Golf, fishing, boating, even scrapbooking has a cost associated to it. Smart manufacturers find a range of product and prices to cater to their entire audience. Now, technology changes, tastes change, markets change, and if the manufacturers didn't respond to what the market wanted, the hobby truly would be on its last legs. And to say that it is on its last legs because it isn't like it was when you started or doesn't look like it did when you were a kid seems incredibly myopic and short-sighted to me. And in my opinion, this attitude is far less inviting to youngsters and frankly far more damaging to the hobby than cost is ever going to be. Now, I'll continue to do reviews, and I will continue to review high-end products, and I'll continue to tell you how much they cost. But given that my audience may be more beginners and intermediate level modelers, I'll make it a point to start reviewing items from across the price spectrum so that people can get an idea of what's available and what's available at their price point. Sorry for the ranty, preachy kind of video. Hopefully I didn't drive too many people away with my opinions. I'm Joe Parker of the Pixel Depot. Thank you so much for watching and so much for listening to my opinions and rants, and I hope you meet me next time in the train room.